Buckle up, everybody, because today we're diving into a case that still chills Romania to the bone. We're talking about Ion Râmurea, the vampire of Bucharest.
Yeah, this guy's name is pretty much synonymous with terror over there.
Exactly, and we're using his Wikipedia article as our roadmap for this deep dive. And let me tell you, the reality of this case is way more disturbing than any horror movie.
What's really fascinating is that this story isn't just about some horrific acts. It's like a glimpse into this really dark chapter of Romanian history, you know?
Well, absolutely.
And it brings up all these unsettling questions about family secrets, like what even is evil, and also the possibility that maybe some truths will just stay buried forever.
Okay, so let's just lay it all out. Bucharest,
Hmm.
1970 to 71. The communist regime's got its grip on everything. People are already living in this constant state of fear and repression. And then, boom, Râmurea's crimes start.
Yeah.
4 brutal murders, multiple rapes, attempted murders. Can you imagine living in Bucharest back then, knowing a serial killer is out there?
I mean, this wasn't just some random crime spree. The brutality, the seemingly random victims.
Yeah.
And to top it off, this is happening under a regime that's controlling all the information.
Yeah.
It created this unique atmosphere of terror, just completely shattered any sense of safety, any sense of control that people might have been clinging to.
It's like straight out of a nightmare. The way the article describes it, Râmurea would attack at night, often with just blunt objects. I mean, the entire city was on edge. Everyone was a potential target.
Yeah.
This wasn't just a news story. It was like this collective trauma.
Absolutely. And you have to remember, back then, serial killers weren't really part of the public consciousness like they are today. There was no, framework for understanding these crimes, so it made it even more terrifying.
Absolutely. And then in 71, they catch Râmurea,
Yeah.
a 25-year-old student.
Yeah.
He's quickly tried, executed. But instead of closure, his execution just throws up more speculation. And all because of his father, Floria Râmurea.
This is where things get really, really interesting.
Yeah.
So this criminalist, Constantin Turai, puts forward this theory that's just chilling.
Okay.
What if Ion was taking the fall for his dad?
Whoa.
Floria was allegedly linked to unsolved murders from way back, 1944 to 1945, with a super similar M.O.
Hold on. How similar are we talking? What were the specifics that tied these older crimes to Ion's crimes? The article kind of glosses over that.
I know, right? That's one of the most frustrating things about this whole case. There's a lot of holes in the information.
Right.
But we know that both sets of crimes were brutal attacks, often targeting women, and the level of violence was very similar.
So it's like these echoes from the past, this possible link to unsolved murders from decades earlier.
Exactly. It's like you've got this ghost story layered on top of a real-life horror story.
And then there's the whole thing with Floria Râmurea's death.
Oh, yeah.
Unverified accounts claim he died in 72, supposedly thrown from a train.
Right.
And some theories even suggest the Securitate, the Romanian secret police, might have been involved.
Possibly.
Wait, are we saying the secret police might have silenced Floria to cover up something, like their own involvement, or to protect someone higher up?
It's definitely a possibility, and it just adds another layer of conspiracy to everything. This was a time when the Securitate basically had unlimited power.
Yeah.
People were terrified of them. So the idea that they could be mixed up in a cover-up, not that far-fetched.
This is so much more complex than I initially thought.
It is.
We've got the brutal crimes, the possibility of the father's involvement, and now maybe a government cover-up.
Yeah.
It's like peeling back layers of a rotten onion. Each layer is more disturbing than the last.
And it all feeds into this enduring fascination with the case. Even decades later, people are still trying to piece together the puzzle to understand how this could even happen.
I mean, it's not just morbid curiosity, is it? There's something about this whole thing that just taps into this primal fear. Like this idea that evil can be lurking right beneath the surface of everyday life.
Exactly. The Râmurea case became this cautionary tale, like a reminder that even in a society that's all about control and safety, darkness can still find a way to thrive.
So let's fast forward a bit.
Okay.
In 1995, this journalist, Dan O'Donoghue, visits Râmurea's hometown. What he finds is chilling. People who had the Râmurea name had changed it out of fear.
Wow. Think about that for a second. The stigma of that name was so strong that people were willing to erase their own identity just to avoid being linked to it.
That's insane. It's a testament to the lasting power of this case. The fear didn't die with Ion Rimuru. It lived on in everyone who remembered.
Yeah, and Odaju uncovered something else pretty disturbing.
What's that?
He reported a pattern of similar violent crimes in the region, especially in a place called Izbicheni. It's like the legacy of violence was somehow woven into the very fabric of the place.
Okay, now this is where it gets really unsettling.
Yeah.
Did Rimuru's crimes somehow inspire copycats? Did they unleash something dark that continued long after he was gone?
That's a question that still hangs over the entire case. Was this just isolated evil, or did it somehow contaminate the area, leaving a trail of violence and fear in its wake?
We've barely scratched the surface here.
I know, right?
And it's already clear that we're dealing with something way deeper and darker than I ever imagined.
Absolutely. And it gets even weirder when you factor in Ion Rimuru's own claims.
Oh, right. What did he say?
Well, throughout his trial, he insisted he was innocent.
What?
Yeah, and pointed the finger at his dad as the real killer.
He was claiming his father framed him. For all of it.
Yep, for those horrific crimes.
I mean, that's a tough pill to swallow.
It is, especially with all the evidence stacked against him. But remember, we're talking about communist Romania.
True.
Coerced confessions. Not exactly uncommon back then.
Yeah, under that regime, who knows what kind of pressure they put on people. Maybe even torture. Could Ion have been a victim of that system?
It's possible. And if that's true, why would he protect his father?
Yeah, why? Some messed up loyalty. Or was there something more going on?
Right. Maybe he was terrified of what would happen if he spoke against his dad. Or maybe they had some kind of agreement. This whole case is like a giant web of secrets.
And lies, yeah.
And don't forget about the Securitate's possible involvement.
Oh, yeah, right.
What if they were using Floria or even Ion for their own twisted agenda? The Securitate had informants everywhere. They were known to manipulate people just to stay in control.
So you're saying Ion might have been a pawn in a bigger game run by the secret police?
Exactly. Pretty chilling, right? It makes you wonder how you can ever get to the truth in a case like this.
Yeah.
We may never know the Securitate's role, but their shadow hangs over everything. It makes you question everything we think we know.
Okay, the Wikipedia article mentions this journalist, Ovi Zara. He claimed Yerekadinka, another criminal, a more recent one, might be related to Ion Rimuru. Did that theory ever go anywhere?
Oh yeah, definitely gained some traction at first.
I bet.
I mean, people were horrified by Dinka's crimes, understandably so.
Right.
And they were desperate to understand, to make sense of it all. The idea that he might be connected to Rimuru, another figure of pure evil.
Right.
Well, it offered some kind of twisted explanation.
It's like we have this human need to find patterns, to connect the dots, even when there's no real connection.
Exactly. We crave reasons, explanations for why people do these horrible things.
Makes sense.
But that particular theory was debunked. There's no evidence linking Dinka and Rimuru.
Okay, so not related. But it does raise a bigger question, doesn't it? Can violence be inherited? Can evil run in families?
That's a question that's been debated for ages.
It has.
Nature versus nurture, right?
Right.
Is there something in our genes that makes us violent? Or is it purely how we're raised?
And the Rimuru case, with both the father and son potentially involved, just throws more fuel on that fire. Hard to ignore that both were accused of these horrific acts.
Absolutely, and that's why this case is so compelling. It forces us to confront these uncomfortable questions about evil, the possibility of inherited violence, and the impact trauma has on us, on whole societies even.
So where does this leave us? We've looked at the crimes, the controversies, the lasting impact of this whole Rimuru case. But it feels like we've only just scratched the surface.
In a way, I think we have. This deep dive, it wasn't about getting definitive answers. It was about exploring the darkness, the ambiguity, the mystery that still surrounds this case.
Yeah.
This is a case that defies easy answers, a case that still haunts Romania to this day.
It does.
And maybe that's the most unsettling part of it all. Some stories, no matter how much we dissect them, will always be shrouded in shadow.
So we've really gone deep on this case. It's incredibly complex, disturbing, all of it. But the Wikipedia article also mentions a ton of other resources about it.
Oh yeah, like articles, documentaries, there's even a YouTube video.
Right.
It's one of the things that keeps this case so fascinating,
Yeah.
It just generates all this discussion, debate. Even now, if anyone wants to dive even deeper, those are great places to start.
I'll be honest, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed with all this information.
I get it.
It's like the more we learn, the more questions pop up.
Well, that's what a real deep dive is all about, right? It's not about finding easy answers. It's about embracing the complexity, the ambiguity even, those uncomfortable truths these cases tend to unearth.
You're right. And the Râmurea case, man, it's a stark reminder that the darkness we've been talking about, it's not just history. It's still out there.
It is. And it makes us ask those tough questions.
The big ones.
Yeah. What makes someone capable of such horrific acts? What role does society play in all this violence? And how can we stop it from happening again?
I mean, those are questions without easy answers, but I think it's important to keep asking them,
I agree.
to keep trying to understand, even when it gets uncomfortable.
Exactly. And maybe that's the biggest takeaway from our deep dive today. The Râmurea case, with all its twists and turns and unanswered questions, it's like a mirror reflecting our own fears, you know?
I do.
It reminds us that evil, in all its forms, is something we always have to be on guard against.
So as we wrap things up, I want to leave our listeners with this. The Râmurea case, even with everything we know, it's still a puzzle with missing pieces.
Yep.
What do you all think happened? What conclusions have you drawn from what we've discussed?
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those lights on. Until next time.